Deja vu.
All right, we are live. Post game 5. This was supposed to be fun, Carl. We were supposed to be celebrating the end of the series, and that is not the case tonight. Again, we're presented by Prize Picks. Use that promo code CLNS to get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. And we got a great new sponsor in Game Time. Use the promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first tickets bought. So Game Time and Prize Picks, promo code CLNS. Carl Corazzini, Evan Marinofsky, post game 5. Bruins lose 2-1 in OT. Disappointing, and for a lot of reasons. Not just because they didn't win, but because you let such a chance slip through your grasp. You have a terrible first 40 minutes of the game, and you just can't pull it out. What were your kind of initial reactions to this?
Well, I'm glad that I sat on the fence the whole series. I said Bruins in 6, then I said Bruins in 7, then I said Bruins in 5. Can I change it again?
You can change it. We shapeshift on this show.
Yeah, I think initial thoughts were Toronto did what they needed to do. They made adjustments to their forecheck. They were really passive in the first 2 periods. They forced Boston to turn pucks over and do something that they haven't been able to do, which is connect on 3 and 4 passes. So they slowed the game down in the first 2 periods, and neither one looked like they wanted to win. But I do think at the end of the day, best team won. Toronto deserved to win tonight. Boston played scared, passive, you name it. So that's number 1. Number 2 is Pastrnak is non-existent. He's decided that he is not going to stop on pucks. He's not going to make physical contact, and he's going to lose every wall battle in the defensive end. And that's alarming. I think you're in a similar situation to where you were at last year, where you lose game 5 in overtime. But at that time, I felt better about Boston. Right? Like they engaged. Tonight they look scared, and I think that's the one thing that makes me worry a little bit.
I agree. Pastrnak had a rough one tonight. He's had a rough one this series. I saw someone mention Pasta's had the quietest 2-goal series ever, and he has. I mean, I think that line has had trouble generating any sort of sustained zone time. And yeah, you can chalk that up to matchups, but you're on home ice. You have the matchups, right? And I mean, to me, like Pasternak's turnover in the second period coming out of his own zone, where Lowry and McAvoy make nice breakout passes to get it to Pastrnak. He has time, he has some space, and he just gives it up to Domi. And then, he blocks that shot, almost gets himself hurt. And again, I agree with you. I think you need a lot more from him than you've gotten so far in this series. That is for sure. And as you said, I mean, Toronto, first of all, I want to say this, the ice was terrible. I don't know if you guys probably tell at home, the ice was awful. The Bruins still were bad first period for sure. They score on their second shot of the game. I think they only had 2 shots at the end of the first, 2 or 3. I mean,
2.
It was minimal. It was 2. And, I know that Toronto had more, urgency. They're on the brink of elimination, but this series has shifted. This series has completely changed. And I think it's interesting because, as a coach, when your team has a 3-1 lead in a game, it's like, okay, you feel good. But they get 1, and suddenly it's a 1-goal game and it's much closer. It's the same with a series, right? You're up 3-1. That's awesome. But you lose another, it's 3-2. You're going back to Toronto. This feels like a whole new series. And from all the other reporters I was talking to tonight, just, shooting the shit with, the fact, everybody feels like Toronto's winning game 6. That's the feeling. Because that's the last 2 times in a series the Bruins have been up 3-1 on the Leafs. They've lost game 5, and then they've lost game 6. So my question to you is, and we'll get into this deeper as time goes along, but are you worried right
now? So first, can I just... First thing about the ice, both teams played on the same ice in the first period.
Oh, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying the ice was bad. I'm not saying the ice was terrible.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
The game. Yeah,
you will get outshot 12-2 in the first period. Boston.
The
Boston
ice
was
only affected the Bruins. Ice
all
only affected the Bruins.
right. Yeah, they mismanaged the puck all over the place. Am I worried? I'm worried about Pastrnak's play. I'm worried about Lindholm's play. And the overall sense was from that game today was how passive they were through two periods. Like everything that you expected the game to be. And catching the first period or bits and pieces of Winnipeg and Colorado, just watching the pace and the urgency in the first few minutes. We had talked about after game 4, we said, watch out. The first 10 minutes, you're going to get everything that Toronto has. They're going to throw everything at you. And that didn't happen today. That didn't happen until midway through the third period and into overtime with that sense of urgency. So, am I worried? I think the way Boston played tonight, they're worried. They played scared. They played not to lose. And when you play not to lose, that's usually when you end up losing. So am I worried? No, Boston's still in control. You still have to win 2 games. But Toronto got what they needed. They needed a goalie to steal a game. Like he played great late.
Yeah.
You played without Austin Matthews. So if he gets back in the lineup, if your power play gets that power play is what, 1 for 16 still now? So
that power play cannot put it together. The other thing you have to think about going back to Toronto is Austin Matthews back, and that increasingly sounds more and more like an injury. But again, like now it's a series, and no one knows what the injury is. We're not going to speculate, but like, do you does he come back and suddenly do they have new life? If he doesn't, the question is, can the Leafs win 3 straight games without Austin Matthews? That's the real question. And I think that'd be really difficult. But if he does come back, that's a huge added boost to that team for sure. Again, like the urgency was not there. But the Bruins turned it on in the third. They had chances. Frederick had that chance down low. He couldn't roof it over Wall. Wall got it with the pad. You look at like Marchand has that somewhat empty net and he puts it wide. And there were chances. And I thought the Bruins were the better team in the third period. The Bruins were better in the start overtime. And one thing that I see a lot of people talking about in the comments is Grzelcyk, because if Matt Grzelcyk was out there on that last play. And we were saying before we came on,
not his fault.
I don't put that on him. He's keeping Tavares to the outside. Tavares is forced to throw the puck middle because he doesn't have an option to the middle. That's on Coyle and McAvoy to shore up guys in front of the net. As you said, they're puck watching.
Yeah, you've got to, right? Like you're outnumber them. It's a 3-on-2. So whoever first guy comes back, right? He's there for support of Grzelcyk, making sure that Tavares doesn't get through the goal crease, right? Like Grzelcyk does keep him to the outside, where Tavares' only option is to make a hope play, right? Like that hope is that Nye somehow gets that. But then whoever third, and I think third person is McAvoy, at no point is there a shoulder check. Never just look here. It's just come back to the net, assuming that you're going to pick off a pass. And so that's, I would say that's on McAvoy, right? Like as the third guy coming back, your job is to take a look around, see who's available, and you've got to find Knives there back door. I think it's disingenuous because I think Grzelcyk played really well all night. I think
I did too.
Early in that third period, I don't know if it was midway through, he hits a nice stretch pass to Coyle. I think he did a great job. And again, not having the advanced stats in front of you, zone exits haven't been great for Boston. He's someone that can do that, and typically year to year, and I don't know what they look like this year, but typically his advanced stats are pretty good. I thought he was good tonight. He made a really good play on that similar play that Tavares did late in the third period. He makes a nice play, keeping someone to the out. I think it was Jan Kruk. Makes a nice play on him. It's unfortunate that puck goes in the back of the net, but really not his fault. That's I think on McAvoy.
Yeah, and I think it is too. You can't puck watch in that situation. You've got to, I think that was a 2-on-3 for the Leafs. I don't have the play in front of me. It happened so quick, but I think that was like a 2-on-3. And is like this comment that Leonard Esser says, like the fact that Coyle didn't bury that at the other end. Like the minute that happened, it was like, oh, and they almost Domi almost had a breakaway after that, but that's kind of started the sequence that led to that goal. So like, I like that the Bruins came out at the beginning of OT looking to win the game quick, but again, like as you said, and Grzelcyk's going to get a lot of crap for it, but it wasn't him. It just I didn't find it to be him on that play. So in general, though, I mean, Montgomery changes the lineup coming into tonight, puts Brazo in for Beecher, and Beecher I know was lost 6 of his 7 draws last game. Drew out of the lineup. They could have used him tonight. The Bruins were out face-off for the whole game, and then Grzelcyk comes in for Shattenkirk. I don't see the issue there. But again, it's an interesting move to do that, given you've won 2 straight games. That was where I think like people are kind of like, why are you messing with this? Because I didn't see like huge impact from Brazo tonight up front. I don't know if you did, but
no, I didn't think he was bad either. Right, like he gave you a little bit of physicality. Obviously, his pace of play isn't at. That's the only thing where I would have questioned that. Right, like that fourth line got slower tonight. Right, like if your idea is that you're going to keep Maroon in there for some physicality, ideally you would like that line to play with a little bit of pace, just because Toronto plays with so much pace. They move the puck well, right? At least at their 4 lines. So I don't think Brazo was bad. Again, not the reason they lost, but there's that line just was slower tonight.
It was, and again, I think in a game like this, I understand wanting a bigger guy in Justin Brazo, but for a guy who hasn't played in a while, to thrust him into Game 5, I think that's his first playoff game ever. Again, it wasn't bad. I'm not saying he was bad, but the speed that Beecher and Boquist bring together, paired with Maroon, I've liked through the first 4 games, and I think to have a guy in Beecher, I know he had a bad face-off night in Game 4, but he is reliable on the draws. And I mean, you saw Montgomery had to switch lines tonight. He put Frederick down on line 4, moved Geeky in as centering that third line for a bit. Like, they don't have a face-off guy. Beecher's usually that guy, and not having him tonight, I think, didn't help.
So I think with what Beecher does is he gives you some flexibility too, right? Like he the ability to take face-offs, play wing, and then kill penalties. Why would you draw him out in a game when, if it's tight and you have a 4 that's in the box, that typically like a Dantonheim, someone like that might take a penalty that kills for you? I don't understand that. Right, Grizzlies and Shattenkirk. Shattenkirk, I think, played 10.5 and 11.5 minutes in the last 2 games, so he's not. I know at least in one of those games he played 11.5 minutes, so he wasn't high on your priority. So I understand someone coming in. If I understand commenters don't love Grizzlies, but someone was going to draw in for him. Beecher gives you too much flexibility up and down the lineup. That's the one to me that's more perplexing than Grizzly coming in tonight.
Well, we had mentioned after every game, is Shattenkirk going to draw out? Is it really worth it to keep him out there just as a power play specialist? And I thought Grzelcyk was fine tonight. Like I did. I didn't think he was a problem. Yes, he's going to get beat in a battle or 2, but puck moving wise and things like that, like you need that. And I didn't find him to be a problem at all. Goaltending. Let's start with the Leafs. No, let's start with the Leafs. We'll start with the Leafs goaltending. Well, we're going to ease you into it. We're going to ease you into this.
Right.
Joseph Woll comes in, plays a lot better. Like, played a good game. And again, I think people don't realize games like that are almost tougher for goalies. When you're facing 40, 45 shots, you're in a groove. When you're facing like 2 shots in the first period and you've got to stave off elimination, that's hard. And he faced a ton in the third, and he stood up to all of them. And great no T. He made that shot by Coyle, by the way, hit Geeky and deflected, and Woll still made the save. So Woll played great. Again, I think there's a little bit of last year I think the Panthers switched to Bobrovsky in Game 4 or 5. This year the Leafs are switching from Samsonov to Woll in Game 5. It's like, this is OT loss in Game 5. It's like, this is getting eerie, Carl. It's getting to be similar, but I think Woll does give the Maple Leafs a better shot, at least in this series, than Samsonov did for sure, right?
Well, are you expecting me to be an expert in the game of Joseph Wall?
Yes.
I think I remember more from the national program, maybe a little bit of BC, but I'm not familiar with his game. I haven't watched enough of the Maple Leafs. What he did tonight, and you're exactly right. I think going through there's obviously the only thing I would say is he probably had a ton of nerves in the first, and if you were going to get to him, it was going to be early, right? Like the idea that throw as many shots on him as possible early in the game to test him being his first, right? Like first game in this series. And that's what frustrates me a little bit about Boston throughout the, right? Like I understand the idea of looking for quality shots over quantity, but we had talked about it. This is playoff hockey is overtime hockey throughout the majority of the game. And even there was the Brazo 3-on-2 late in the game. He's coming down the wing. He's got middle drive and he's got someone dot lane far side. And instead of just trying to shoot for far pad and have it kick out and see what happens, he tries to make a sauce 80-foot pass across.
Yeah.
And you just that's not this game. That's not how playoff games are won. It's won around the net. Yeah, regular season, I get it. Quality shots to bore fans, right? Like the idea of Royal Road, get the puck across on the other side, on the weak side, to make the goalie move and the defense shift and all that great stuff. But here it's what Tavares did. Just hope, get it wide, hope that someone's going to be in the area, hope that Charlie Coyle and Charlie McAvoy don't check their shoulder, hope that if it gets put out in that area that Boston doesn't have a weak side wing and it takes it back the other way on a 3-on-2. So Boston's got to get to the net front. They've got to get back to, and this is now what they didn't do well, and this is in large part to what Toronto did really well. Toronto was passive tonight on their forecheck, forced Boston to turn the puck over through the neutral zone, and then, right, like establish some sort of forecheck. And then you saw the way that Boston tried to break that late in the third, hit these stretch passes. Boston's got to establish the forecheck in game 6 and let Toronto know that it's going to be a fast game. Like Toronto's more physical. Boston's going to have to play a little bit faster and a little bit more urgent. And that's where they've turned pucks over. That's right. Like their first goal on Frederick, right? Like two players stepping down on Toronto again, and there's a turnover, and that's been successful for him. The forecheck tonight just wasn't good enough.
No, it wasn't. And I thought after that, I was thinking like, okay, you score your first goal, your second shot of the game, late in the first, off of a good forecheck, keep that going. And it was never there. It was never really there. And you also hit on the point of like, Joseph Woll's in his first playoff game. The Leafs are up against, their backs to the wall, and you get 2 shots on him in the first.
Yeah.
And they had chances. I mean, again, Toronto hemmed the Bruins in their own zone, and I tweeted this out like, the Bruins were careless with the puck in their own end. The one good thing I thought they were pretty good at was they defended the front of their own net well in that first period when they were under siege. A lot of the shots came from the outside. I think Toronto only had 1 high danger chance among their like 12 or 13 shots, but it's still unacceptable. And it's still unacceptable to not get shots at the other end of the ice with a young, inexperienced goalie coming in mid-series, and sort of gives him a chance to sort of get his legs under him. And I thought, when Frederick scored that, I'm like, okay, you scored in your second shot. Like, you're going to forecheck more and pucks are going to get past Woll. And it didn't happen at all. And I do think, again, like if, he made 27 saves tonight, that's a big confidence boost for him. The Leafs have to be feeling it right now. That does shift the series. I'm not like, I don't want to say I'm worried because the Bruins do play pretty well on the road. They played well in games 3 and 4 if they can just stay disciplined. And as you said, and we'll talk about this probably later too, like, can you weather those first 10 minutes in game 6 in Toronto? Can you just keep it 0-0? Something like that. But I'm not worried, but I don't feel great.
I think the only thing about
great.
Yeah, I think the only thing about Joseph Woll is he's not a Vezina type goalie, right? Like he had a great night tonight in a large part of the reason why they won, and especially down the stretch. But this isn't Sergei Bobrovsky getting inserted to the series that if everything's right, he's one of the best goalies in the world. That's not a reality for Joseph Woll. So you've got to go for quantity. What do they play on Thursday night now? You've got to go for quantity over quality, and you've got to force him early in that game to make high leverage saves with traffic, under intense pressure, shots making their way from the point with screens and making his life as miserable, right? Like and I know we joke about like when I played, you'd get every team has a goalie coach. The goalie coach comes in with weaknesses, and literally every game that I ever played in, it was the same thing. Goalie's not good with rebounds. Goalie's not good with net front traffic. Yeah, like what goalie is, right? Every goalie is going to let up a rebound if there's net front traffic.
Yeah, what goalie in the world is good with net front traffic?
Yeah, if Joseph Woll sees everything, he is an NHL goalie. He's going to make the saves. That's a reality. So they've got to do a better job of putting him under pressure early on.
So, Swayman or Ullmark, the goaltending situation for the Bruins.
No,
we're going to talk about it. Wait, hold it.
Okay.
Wait.
Sorry.
Quick word from our friends at Prize Picks, and then we'll talk about the goaltending situation.
Quick break in the action to tell you about my good friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks has something for every sports fan, from basketball and hockey to League of Legends and everything in between. You could pick LeBron, Caitlin Clark, Connor McDavid, and Jude Bellingham all in the same entry. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. And the best part, quick withdrawals, and it's easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. As the Bruins playoffs roll on, I'm liking the pick of Jeremy Swayman more saves. He's just been so good of late. And you know what? I also like Jake DeBrusk more goals. So download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, back to the show.
So the big question, Swayman or Ullmark? What say you, Carl Corazzini?
Swayman. Game 6. If there's a game 7, he goes game 7. He was lights out again tonight. I mean, he's obviously playing at the highest level he's probably ever played in his career. If you take him out of the lineup,
they're taking the glass down.
Oh, they are.
The Celtics are tomorrow night, so
you really can't take him out of the lineup at this point. It wouldn't be fair to him. It wouldn't be fair to the team. It wouldn't be fair to Linus Ullmark. Right now, you've been sitting there since game 2, the only game that you've played and you've lost. Your team has won 3 other games without you. Right, like it's been an extended period of time without him seeing a puck. I think we talked about it after game 4 again. Right, the next game that Linus Ullmark should play, if you're going to stick with this kind of rotation, would be game 1 of next series against Panthers, if you get there. I'm not advocating for that. I think if you get there, you've gotten there in large part because of how good Jeremy Swayman is. But next game for Linus Ullmark would be in the next series if that's what's to happen for the Bruins.
I think I'm seeing a lot more Linus Ullmark comments than I thought I would. Right. I thought there'd be a lot more Swayman, and there still is. At this moment, am going Swayman. He looked really good tonight. Again, 31 saves, 33 shots. Last goal wasn't his fault. He was the reason that you were in it for the whole game. To me, I like the goalie rotation. I do. But now it's do or die. And going into Toronto, you got to have it. You got to have it. And, we can talk about the possibilities of, well, what if what if Swayman is terrible in game 6 and you got to go to Ullmark in game 7? Well, I mean, you do have Ullmark there. He has played in this series. I know you feel like even if he has a bad game 6, you'd probably still trot him out for game 7, right?
Yeah, I think regardless, right? Like, I think first shot essentially tonight goes in. After that icing, I think it's the fourth shot of the game actually, but fourth shot goes in. It's a long shot. You think, oh, this may be the night where he has a stinker, and he was excellent. Like, he was resilient. He moved on from that. So I think he showed everyone, fans, teammates, he's locked in. And so, yeah, he may have if he were to have a bad game in game 6, which I don't think he will, he'd be able to move on from it and be ready for game 7. I think you put him right back in the net. I think he's your guy right now, and that's their best chance to win. I think he's proven that through this series, and I wouldn't go away from Swayman right now.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't. And I just, again, going into this playoff run, I was big on, hey, do the rotation, try it out. I want to see him do it. You know, you had a chance to close him out tonight. Swayman played well enough to win. You know, you need it in game 6. And I think he's played good enough that even in a loss like this, right? Like, a lot of people said, oh, play one guy until they lose and then go to the next one. Well, yeah. This is uncharacteristic. This is unconventional. This is not a typical loss. It's 2-1 OT, defensive miscue in front. Team played bad in front of them. It's not like, the Bruins had a ton of chances. Like, Swayman, to me, was the Bruins' number 1 star in this game by far. Not close. Nobody was a close second. So, to me, Swayman starts game 6. And I get the Ullmark thing. I get it. He's fresh, but I just think, right now, with the way the series is going, and again, like, look at how Toronto scored, right? It's not like they've broken Jeremy Swayman. The first shot of the game was a shot he never saw, wrist shot from the point, rebounded well, played well the rest of the game, and then the final goal was just a puck that came in the net front that McAvoy and Coyle didn't defend against. Nyes came in all alone and put it over his blocker. Like, to me, I'm not going away from Swayman right now. I'm not, and I think, you don't want to make a decision because, you don't want to make a decision because people can't second guess it, right? Like, if they went to Ullmark in game 6 and lost, you second guess everything. If they stick with Swayman, I think people kind of just go like, well, you stuck with Swayman. I mean, that was the good guy. You can't, go against that. So, again, not the reason you make a decision, but I think that's the reality of it.
And I think the reason there were so many questions about Ullmark last year is he looked out of sorts as you got into game 5, game 6, right? He seemed tired.
He was dealing with something.
Right? Like, that's what we all thought when we were doing this, that there was some sort of injury that you're dealing with. And that seemed like an easy situation to go away from Ullmark and put Swayman. There's no reason. Like, he looked great. He looked great tonight. What did he face? 32 shots?
33.
33. Okay, sorry. I was not counting that last one. So 33 shots, looks strong, controlled rebounds. I don't remember any rebounds that were egregious. Swallowed up pucks from the point. I mean, that 2-on-1 save, he was ready for it, expected the pass. So I'm going right back.
I am too. And I don't think it's a huge debate. I know people are very divided on this. I just don't see it as a huge controversy. Like, I don't know. To me, it's pretty obvious. Like, you stick with Swayman. He's your best player right now. He's been the best player in the series for you, outside of like bottom 6 players. And I get the Ullmark stuff. I get, wanting to stick with the rotation, and maybe, like, I thought there was maybe a chance that they would go to Ullmark in this game, but then, like, obviously they don't. Is there a chance that after they lose a game, they say, hey, we're going to try Ullmark? Like, Montgomery is quick with shuffling lines. You shuffle the lines after. Is there any chance you think he goes to Ullmark?
No, because I don't want to say it, right? You trying to do this diplomatically. If you have back-to-back years where you lose 3-1 series leads, you can finish that sentence for me, Evan.
Yes, you're on the hot seat.
Yeah, you're on the hot seat. So for that reason, I don't think that Montgomery's going to go away from Swayman because he knows how well he's been playing, and that gives them the best chance to win this series right now. That doesn't mean that Ullmark can't get back into the playoffs, but right now, as it stands, your best player is Jeremy Swayman, and a close second's Brad Marchand. But the reason you're up 3-2 and had a shot tonight, the only reason you had a shot tonight was because he was good.
I mean, Bruins were outshot 13-2 in the first period. Like, and they finished, it was tied 1-1. Like, there it is. And that's Swayman. That is Jeremy Swayman. So, yeah, I think Swayman definitely starts, or should start at least game 6, which is Thursday night.
And this is the only thing about the game too. Was Toronto, outside of the face-off dot, was Toronto particularly good tonight? Did they do any outside of making the neutral zone change, which just frustrated Boston's game, which is, but I didn't think, especially through the first 2 periods, that they weren't extremely aggressive on the forecheck. They didn't have, like you said, they only had that one high danger chance in the first period. I will tell you, I thought this was a regular season game, midweek regular season game, like a Tuesday or Thursday. It seemed slow to start. I was checking my phone. I was checking my phone the whole second period. Nothing was happening. So I think the Bruins let slip an opportunity to win a game. I don't think Toronto played their best game. Like, that's far from their best game. They didn't have Matthews, and they put in their backup goalie, and you lost. So
this is similar to what we're saying after. This is similar to what we were saying after game 2. Missed opportunity. You have a real opportunity. No Matthews, home ice, and you just nothing. And you're right. The Leafs didn't look great either. You know, they had some offensive zone time, but they weren't getting anything to them. They weren't getting to high danger areas, and credit the Bruins for partially for that. But they also couldn't find any routes to the net. So, like, again, I agree with you. It's a missed opportunity. What did you like though from the Leafs tonight? What did you enjoy?
Well, I think, anytime as a coach, I think you make a small adjustment that helps you in a game, and that adjustment to sitting back and again, boring 1-2-2 in the neutral zone where Toronto was sitting on top of Boston's forward, looking to break out through the neutral zone, slowing the game down. I mean, you look at it, Boston was fumbling the puck for a majority of that first period and didn't know what to do. And you see a lot of people, and this is where this would play in. A lot of the commenters earlier talking about referees, the linesmen, being really stingy on the icing. But by Toronto sitting back, having 2 forwards hold that red line, you're forcing Boston you want them to dump the puck, and if you do the job the right way, you're dumping the puck before the red line, and that leads to the first goal, right? Like, Boston dumps, it's an icing, it comes back down the other end, and McCabe gets the goal off the face-off. So that little adjustment gets you goal number 1. Great job, Sheldon Keefe. Sheldon Keefe also, for a majority of that first period, maybe first half of the game, won the matchups on the road. And I don't know, and I can't – a lot of the time, it was Boston's fourth line out against Tavares. Boston's fourth line was out with 23 seconds left in the game.
Yeah, they were.
23 seconds left in the game. They were out on the ice. And so you know what the matchup's going to be. You know you're getting Toronto's best because you know that Toronto doesn't want to go to overtime. And you had Boquist, Maroon. I don't remember. I know Boquist and Maroon were. I don't remember if Brazeau was out there. But that was your matchup for the last 23 seconds of the period. That's scary. Like, I'm not going. If I'm losing, I'm not going down with the fourth line out there.
And this fourth line too. This is, again, tonight it was Maroon, Boquist, and Brazeau. They changed Brazeau. They moved Brazeau up, Frederick down. Frederick, I thought, actually had a pretty good game. Like, Frederick was pretty good. But it's not like this is Corrali, Achari, and Wagner, and they can play in all situations and this and that. Like, this is it's a good fourth line, but not. I agree with you. I'm not putting them out there with 23 seconds left in the game. You're right about the Leafs, and they did. And it's funny though, because like in theory, the Bruins should have dumped it in more and forechecked the hell out of them and won some of those battles. And you didn't see that in the first 40 minutes. And I think like that's scary. That's not good because that's where the Bruins have had the advantage. And they've all year, Montgomery's preached score, generate chances from behind the net, turnovers and pucks to the front of the net, things like that. And you didn't see a ton of that for the first 20 minutes or 40 minutes. And a lot of the commenters are pointing out the right thing. Like you're in the biggest game of the year for the Bruins, right? Chance to end the Leafs season in 5, chance to clinch on home ice. And you come out like that. I hate that. Like, it's right there. And to come out flat. And, people were asking in the comments, like, was the Garden rocking tonight? No, not really. Like, it was for big moments, like when Marchand got tackled by the linesman, the place did go nuts. What do you think of that? I know the linesman just tripped, but, like, that was wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a linesman that's trying to do his job, right? Like wants to separate the two of them as quick as he possibly can, comes in a little too hot, right? And I mean, that's a hard job. But could you imagine being on skates, trying to break up a scrum, coming to that situation? And the last thing that he wants to do is knock over Brad Marchand. So
I know.
But like touching on the fans, you want that place to be rocking, so that's on the team to create some sort of energy. And there was no energy through. I'm surprised that they didn't boo them off the ice in the first period.
They booed them at one point. There was a power play the Bruins had in the second, which genuinely was awful.
That was the beginning of the second period, and just lack. I don't want to say, lack of urgency. Urgency to get back to puck. To get back to the puck in the defensive end, kind of letting Toronto dictate the pace there, get after the loose puck. I don't know. I mean, that I sent you a text right at that time. Just that's brutal. Like you have an opportunity here. You played horrible. You're still tied 1-1. You have an opportunity on an early power play in that second period to put the Leafs on their heels, and they allow them to feel some sort of confidence that they were going to be in the game. That second period power play kind of was, I don't want to say a turning point because it went to overtime and it didn't really inspire Toronto. But to me, it was, all right, this is what this game's going to be, right? Boston didn't come to play. Like you certainly had moments, right? I think in that period, you had that one shift. I remember Geeky was out there where fans kind of got a little bit excited there in the second period, but that was few and far between, and that wasn't good. That wasn't good enough at home.
That power play was emblematic of the game.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Not no urgency, as you said. Just it was like a plain bagel. It was what it was like. It was just nothing there, and you're right. Like there just wasn't anything to get the crowd going, and the crowd really only got going when like Swayman would make a crazy save, like the Morgan Riley one-timer on that power play. In I think it was either the first or the second period, and like even that, and it's like, how is that? Like, how are you not more into that? And so, I don't think that's anything Toronto's doing. I think both teams were weirdly just flat tonight. Toronto came out a little bit better, but again, at the end of the day, Toronto deserved to win that game.
Oh yeah,
Toronto deserved to win that game. Like, there's no, the Bruins got screwed by the refs, or Wool stood on his head. The Leafs just earned it tonight. They deserved it. And, but I think there's a lot where you look at the Bruins and it's like the Leafs deserved it. But it wasn't because they dominated or had some like incredible game plan. The Bruins also just didn't have a lot there. I don't know.
Oh, they dominated in the face-off circle, which means you dominate possession of the puck, which if you don't have possession of the puck, it's hard to play the game itself. So I would say Toronto deserved to win. Had Boston scored early in overtime, whether it be Marchand on that rush or Coyle, you would have said that they had stolen a game. Great job, Jeremy Swayman, who move on to the next series. But now the better team won tonight. And now you got to go into Toronto, which I got to imagine is going to be rocking. But I got to imagine that they're going to be excited that they get another opportunity to cheer on their team and a potential to move forward in the next series. So you've put yourself in that situation to play in a hostile environment.
Yeah, you have. And, there's the other side of it where they played well on the road this year. And I think the Bruins have, and that's a good thing. And they play a little more simpler, which is good. But, to have to go back there and they have the momentum now. Toronto has the momentum in this series and credit to them for that. But I just didn't like what I saw out of the Bruins tonight at all, outside of the goaltending. Back to Pastrnak, because we talked about this at the beginning. There's more people here now. I think the top six in general wasn't great tonight. I know there were some chances. Marchand had that one chance, and Coyle had that chance in overtime. But when's Pastrnak getting going? Like, that to me is such a huge thing. And we said it after Game 4, oh, it's great that you're up 3-1. And you don't, Pastrnak hasn't been a huge factor in this series, but tonight, like you said, the urgency and there were some shots on net, but is it a product of hey, when you're playing against a team for 7 games, they're going to shut down the other team's top guy, or is this more of a Pastrnak thing in your eyes?
No, I think we talked about it again the other day. Toronto's made the priority Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand came out in the first 2-3 games and was the best Bruins forward player, right? Outside of Jeremy Swayman.
Yes.
I haven't seen that level of intensity with David Pastrnak outside of that little scrum with Morgan Riley, which was, created out of kind of nothing. I think this is more I think this is a David Pastrnak issue. I just don't. The not stopping on pucks is perplexing, because let's be honest. Kevin Wilder teaching us at Framingham youth hockey, that's the first thing you do. You stop on pucks. His has been a consistent swing. If the puck doesn't bounce right at his feet, he just kind of moves along with it. And I guess, do I not pay enough attention during the regular season? Am I on my phone too much? Is he consistently this casual? I don't. Right, in order to score 40 plus goals, 44, you've got to be around the net. You've got to be heavy at times. Right, certainly the regular season is a different game. But this has been on him. I haven't seen him win. I haven't seen him win a battle. I haven't seen him win a battle in a bit, and I don't know. So the psychology piece to it is he frustrated with the lineup? Is there a lineup that he was more successful with during the regular season that he would like to go back to? Because that'd be the only thing.
Yeah, but this is what they had.
He's playing like he's frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, Heinen, Zacha, Pastrnak worked at the end of the season, and Zacha has been kind of his right-hand man all year, and last year too, and it worked with Krejci last year and this year, with kind of a revolving door on the left, but Heinen sort of figured it out, at least put him there, and I agree with you. I just, the urgency and sometimes you'll see him finish checks, which is good, but the Leafs for the most, even when he has the puck coming over the blue line, nothing's been happening.
Well, he's had time and space. He's had time and space. I don't remember if it was, I think it was third period. Someone skated across, a nice zone entry, skates across, drops on the puck. He's able to penetrate the top of the circle, and it takes him, no exaggeration, maybe a second or two, and Kampf on the back check picks it off. Usually you're forcing the goalie to make a save. He seems delayed.
Yeah, he does. And so last year he got going in Game 6 and Game 7. He was good. If people remember, he was vital in those games. I mean, I know they didn't win, but he put up goals. So it wouldn't shock me. And even in this series, right? I think, what do you have, a power play goal early in the series? And then he had that goal with Marchand in game 4, I think. And so, you have those. My guess is he steps it up. Like, this has been a couple games in a row now where it hasn't been the most complete game for him. And I do think, in one of these next 2 games, if there are 2 more, I do think he gets going. But as you said, it's the urgency. It's the stopping on pucks. That's the other one. It's come on. And that was emblematic of the team tonight. There was a lot of a lack of urgency on their part in certain areas of the ice. And, that's where you just kind of throw your hands up and it's game 5. You have a chance to eliminate a team. Why are you not just going completely all in for that? So, yeah, I mean, Pastrnak, and that, again, I mentioned at the beginning, that turnover to Domi coming out of the own zone. And I'm I don't know how many of the commenters and viewers this season, there's been a undercurrent of anti-Pastrnak sentiment among some Bruins fans. Some Bruins fans think he's a liability, turns the puck over too much, isn't good. And I'm always like, no, that's wrong. You are wrong. He was their best player this year, and by a mile. I mean, he carried them offensively. Points are insane. He's a top 5 MVP guy in my mind. But tonight, he didn't look great. And I can say that. And, good for him for blocking that shot after he turned it over. But, chip it off the glass or skate a little bit more. There's no reason to just do that. And so, it's things like that I think worry people. And, we'll see what ends up happening with him the next couple of days.
So I think this is us talking back and forth over the course of the year. And I think that this is where the lack of a true elite number 1 center, and not an elite number 1 center.
I know what you mean.
Not having centers that are able to consistently distribute for him. Right, you get into a series like this, who can create their own offense, and what you're talking about when players can create their own offense, those are the players that other teams look to shut down, right? Like Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, those are who you concentrate on. Marchand and Pastrnak for Boston, they're wingers, so the puck is not consistently in their hands. You need someone to get them the puck, and you don't have those same players that you had last year. Obviously, Bergeron and Krejci, who are, probably that step below elite at distributing the puck. Very good puck distributors, people that played with a ton of patience. And so you don't get that from Coyle and Zacha. Good all-around players. There's no doubt about that. But in their careers have been second and or third line centers. And now you're asking them in a playoff scenario to be able to create, and that's right. I think that's the missing piece for this team this year, and that's the one thing that I think we said. I don't remember at what point we said it or if we said it off air. Montgomery clearly is a good coach. He's gotten this roster to this point. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you get them over the edge? Because I think if this team makes a second round, that's a huge success for this group, and you won't look at it as a pure success because they had 109 points during the regular season. But that roster that they have is not 109 points. So no. He's done a good job, but has to get them over the edge right now. Yeah,
I think there's a lot that needs to go right in these next 2 games, but for the Leafs too. The pressure's still on them. I know we see it from the Bruins perspective. The Leafs are back in this series. It's 3-2 going back to Toronto. Historically, the Bruins have not been great, except they did win Game 6 in Toronto in 2019. Jake DeBrusk had a huge game, and they ended up they went into Toronto that year down 3-2. So now they're up 3-2. But the both times they've been up 3-2 going into Toronto, they've not done so hot. So I want to discuss these upcoming games a little bit, but first, quick word from our friends over at Game Time.
Quick break to tell you about my good friends over at Game Time. I am very excited about the NBA playoffs, and what's awesome is here in Boston, TD Garden is the best atmosphere for a playoff game. Thankfully, we have Game Time, which is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Maybe it's the NBA playoffs or it's the NHL playoffs. The same is true with the Bruins. TD Garden gets so fun during this time of year, and you want to be there. The Bruins and Celtics are in pursuit of championships, and as the rounds go on, the crowd gets better and better. Nothing beats it. And with Game Time, there's last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. There's flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. And there are zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. Again, take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets and head over to Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code, again, CLNS. I can't be more clear about that. Use code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. Now, back to the show.
I think, did I make myself clear on that? Code CLNS. I say that? I don't know if I said that enough.
I think I heard it.
Yeah, I gotta really drive it home. We talk about adjustments all the time. What adjustments teams need to make? You talked. I remember after Game 4, we talked. What do the Maple Leafs need to do going into this Game 5 to win? And they actually did some good adjustments. What adjustments do you see the Bruins needing to make going into Game 6, if any?
Yeah, no, do exactly what they did tonight. They should be fine in Game 6. Yeah, they've got to make adjustments.
Play the exact same way. Come out the same way. 2 shots.
Yeah, come out.
Work great. That'll be great.
Yeah, come out flat. Don't shoot the puck in the first period. All things will be good.
Do the big, instead of stopping on pucks, do the big, whoop, right around. It's a little less energy exerted. Do that.
Yeah.
That'll work out great.
Save yourself for the third and overtime. I think obviously you've got to do the same thing that we were talking about for Toronto coming into this game. The idea that in the first 10 minutes you're going to put as much pressure on Toronto. So regardless of what we think, Toronto's playing at home. The last thing that they want to do is lose in front of their home crowd, right? So put pressure on them early. What does pressure on them early look like? You're going to have to establish your forecheck. What you've shown is when you have 2 Boston forwards being aggressive on Toronto's defensemen, they've turned the puck over a ton below the goal line. And then your F3 in that soft area scored 2 goals. Like you think of the Frederick goal tonight, you think of the Van Riemsdyk goal in Game 3,
4, where the low ride was that, you talking about that one? Low ride came down. That was 4.
So you have to establish that forecheck. You've got to be physical. You probably got to step out, right? Like everyone's got to be a little bit physical in that first 10 minutes, and you've got to put pressure on them. You've got to put pressure on Wall. Like if you establish those turnovers below the goal line, you've got to go low to high. When it goes low to high, are you shooting pucks with traffic? That has got to be the game plan. That game plan hasn't changed since 1986 in the playoffs. There aren't many teams that win it by looking for the quality shot over the quantity, right? It's net front. You battle, you jam it home. But establish your forecheck. That's it. They've shown you. So, okay. They've shown you that they're going to be passive, right? They've gone into this 1-2-2. You keep shoving the puck up the middle. You're going to have to go weak side like we talked about the other day. Right. So it's how do you create that? And they did it a little bit, although I don't think this is for me. And the game's probably those players have forgotten more hockey than I know, but when they go cross ice, trying to go that weak side, there's not enough support. So what that means is the guy catching the puck on the weak side is too far ahead, like too closer to the red line than he should. I would like that weak side player to come a little bit low, catch the puck so he can come with some pace, hopefully garner some support from either a stretch or a center coming underneath. So that way, when you have to eventually dump it in, that there's some pace to get in on that forecheck.
I texted you this the beginning of the game. I said the Leafs are leaving the weak side open. Like on a lot of those, their forechecks, the Bruins did have the weak side open when their D were coming up the strong side, and it's like, all right, we'll just get it over there. But you're right in the sense that you obviously the support. I agree with you. I think the one big change I would make going into Game 6 is just forecheck the hell out of them. Now, the problem with that is if they get past you, they're a dynamic team. You don't want those odd man rushes, right? That's the big thing. That's the worry with going so hard on the forecheck. But like you're getting goals that way. And it doesn't mean sending 3 guys in the corner. We're not talking about that. We're just saying be smarter about it and identify those passes. And, we've seen the glimpses of it. We saw it on Frederick's goal tonight, right? Like that was that. So like to me, that's a big thing. I like that would be my one big technical change going into Game 6. And an interesting one. So DJ Chips asks about how do you feel about Brazeau? And that we can get into lineup changes going into Game 6. I said at the beginning of the show, I didn't think he was bad. I expected more. Sort of like Maroon in Game 1, where it was like I wanted to see Brazeau like shot out of a cannon. And he just didn't really get that. And again, it's his first game back after injury. Like, that's a tough thing for a guy like him. But, do you keep him in the lineup? Probably not. I think Beecher gives you more. Beecher plays in more situations.
One of those two has to draw out Maroon or Brazeau. Too slow. It's probably not going to be Maroon just because of experience. Obviously, I don't think toughness is necessarily what you need in the playoffs, but provides that as well. But you've got to have Beecher there just to mix it up and give yourself an opportunity to win a defensive zone draw, right? Like obviously a lot of those face-offs were because of icing, so you can't change there. So it doesn't play a role there, but defensive zone draws, like have possession of the puck, give yourself a chance, kill a penalty. Beecher should have been in. Like for me, I would have gone right. And I know we talked at length about Grizzly having 1-2 straight games. I would have gone with the exact same lineup. And
we said this after Game 4.
Yeah, yes. That even means if Shattenkirk was only going to play 10 to 12 minutes, I would have been fine with that. But that's me in my head. I am, and
but for people who are wondering what that noise is, I don't mean to cut you off. They are putting the Celtics cord on, and it is extremely loud. So I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but my goodness. But continue.
No, well, I think my thought process is done right now.
I don't even remember the drilling in the back. The drilling in the back. You're like, I don't even
remember what I was talking about. I was talking about Beecher and then Grizzlick, and then
You said you were saying stick with the same lineup.
Oh, I would have. Yeah. I mean, I'm superstitious, so me personally would have stuck with the same lineup. I know you probably get worried about the idea that I have a player that I'm only playing 10 to 12 minutes on the back end. Usually, when you don't play a ton of minutes on the back end, that looks like 14 to 16 minutes, and he's 6 minutes clear of that. So you clearly don't trust him all that much. But if you were going to put him in today, would have been the day where you can have the matchup where you're at home. If I were going to if I wouldn't have taken him out, it would have been in Game 3 or 4 when I couldn't control the matchups and I couldn't afford to have a guy playing only 10 or 12 minutes.
Yeah, 5-on-5 tonight. Defensively, Wotherspoon had the least minutes at 5-on-5, 11-19. Lowry was 14-37. Grzelcyk was 18-04. Lindholm was 18-19. Carlo 18-34. And McAvoy was 24 minutes. Lowest time on ice for the game was Brazeau at 10:03, and then Van Riemsdyk at 10:09. I know when we first came on, overtime had just happened. People saw Grzelcyk, against Tavares there in OT. Everybody was like, "Oh, Grzelcyk stinks." Like I'll repeat myself. I thought Grzelcyk was fine tonight. Grzelcyk was not an issue. I think he stays in the lineup. And there were some good defensive breakups I thought he had off the rush. I thought he defended the rush pretty well. And, again, moving the puck and things like that. Like, I'm okay with that. So I know people are chiming in with the Grzelcyk stuff, and Grzelcyk's kind of a divisive player for the Bruins, but like, I was fine with it. I don't know. I didn't, we'll see what happens when they don't have the matchups going into Game 6. But would I take Shattenkirk or Grzelcyk? I would take Grzelcyk.
So the question is, and I saw it pop up, and I didn't really think much about it. Carlo's availability for Game 6.
I haven't seen this. Has this been a thing that they've been?
Well, he wasn't out. I didn't think. I think initially in that overtime, the telecast said that he wasn't on the bench.
Yeah, no Carlo to start overtime. That's interesting. Well, I'm interested to see what ends up happening with that, because I think he's your best shutdown defender. Like, I love the way he plays defense. I do. And he's so good. I know Matthews wasn't in there tonight, but he's so good. If Matthews comes back, he's so good at shutting down Austin Matthews. And I think if you go into Game 6 and you don't have Carlo, again, we don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, if Carlo's out, that's a monumental loss, because you're already down Peak. You're already down Andrew Peak, and you need guys who can shut down Toronto's scoring. And Carlo has done a phenomenal job of that. We were reading the advanced stats after Game 4, and Carlo was the lowest chances against on the team, or like lowest Corsi. So technically, it'd be like the worst player on the ice, but he wasn't. Eye test, it's like, wow, that guy played outstanding defense. So but that would be a big loss. That would be a huge loss.
What have you heard about Peak? He was skating today. Yes, no.
Yeah, someone's saying, by the way, Carlo took a puck to the face. Maybe that was it. If that was it, then like I would expect him back. Again, I didn't see what happened with Carlo, even though I'm here. I didn't see it. Maybe I was texting you, but I didn't see what happened with that. Peak,
it was late in the third period. It came up high. I don't know how hard it was. I don't know if lost teeth, getting stitches, broken. No, I don't want to say right, like a Chara-like situation. I don't know any of that. But I did see him leave the game, and I just heard. I was doing the ESPN telecast that he wasn't on the bench.
Oh, I was going to ask you how Jack Edwards was tonight, because tonight could have been his final game, but you're watching ESPN.
I watched both. To be honest with you, I watched Jack Edwards through 2 periods. He got animated with Kazari after that scrum.
I saw the tweets.
Yeah, and the Bruins coming out with 2 penalties. But then once I realized that the view on ESPN was a little bit better, then I moved to that.
Yeah, I'm curious. People in the comments, if you guys watch Nesson, I'm curious what you guys thought of Jack tonight, because I saw and I was thinking, if the Bruins win tonight, like, he's got to empty the clip of just like it was doing in Game 4, like the Leafs are shaking on the branches, like just emptying it out. Like, you've just got to, it's your last game, you got to let it all out. So I agree with you on that. I saw an interesting comment in there. If this is all the Leafs have, I'll put it up on the thing. If this is all the Leafs have, I'm still pretty optimistic the Bruins have one more win in them. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't feel great, but I'm not like, oh my God, break glass in case of emergency at all.
That's not the best the Leafs have, though, and we know that. And so that's the thing, right? In Game 2, I would even say in Game 1, Toronto played better than they did tonight. Boston just was elite. Boston was elite in Game 1, right? Got some big saves, gave them the opportunity to get that game out of hand. Game 2, Toronto was unbelievable. Toronto is 1 for 17 on the power play. That's not a reality. At some point, they're going to break through, and then. Right, that's why you can't waste these opportunities to win games.
Yes,
and I mean, not waste. I say it as if both teams weren't trying to win, but this was an opportunity missed, is the way I should have stated that. Opportunity missed to have won a game where both teams didn't play well, both goalies played really well, gave their teams an opportunity to win, but you just didn't play well enough in the first two periods. Like if you came out with the urgency that you had in the third and overtime, you probably win that game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I go back to like, we said this after game 2, like game 2, no Nylander, you have an opportunity to go up 2-0 going to Toronto and you just can't do it. And like, it was the same type of thing tonight. Close game. Not their best effort, but you look at like Toronto didn't, wasn't outstanding. We've said this, earlier in the show, and you don't have Austin Matthews. Like you have to take advantage of that. And we'll see what ends up happening, what Matthews' status is, because I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like, is he going to be good to go for game 6? Is he going to be good to go for game 7? Is he not? Like, we don't really have any indication. It started as an illness. They said doctors pulled him. And you have like Elliot Friedman, I think it was Elliot, saying that, this looks more like an injury. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that's what I saw on Twitter. So even like you have that too. And so if they get Matthews back, that obviously changes things. Do you think the Leafs, I don't want to say that, but do you think the Leafs win the series if Matthews comes back?
Not if he's not at 100%, right? Like if he's at 100%, he's one of the top, I know whatever number I pick right now, people are going to jump on me. So in the 5 to 10 range, top 5.
I would say top five
players in the world. If he's right, he's a difference maker. If he's not healthy, it's going to be hard for him. Like certainly the area where he's always going to be helpful is on the power play. Limited by, if he was on the ice skating, I can't speculate, but like anytime he's available to be on the power play, he's a threat to score on any power play. So he can help in that regards if he's not healthy. But other than that, not at 100%, knowing, right, there aren't many players in the world, if any, that can change a series if injured.
I agree. Game 6 and 7, or at least let's get game 6 because that's what's next. Game 7 hasn't happened yet. We don't need a game 7 yet. Game 6 lineup wise, do you stick with this lineup on D?
What?
I know we mentioned putting Beecher back in for Brazeau, but like, do you change anything on D?
Oh man.
Because again, like Lowry, I didn't think Lowry had a bad game. I thought Lowry looked pretty good tonight. And I thought he did his job. I thought, Carlo was great. I mean, you're not taking Carlo out. You're not taking McAvoy out. You're not taking Lindholm out, right? Those 3 are in. So then it becomes, do you keep Grzelcyk in the lineup? I mean, he eats minutes. Not eats minutes, but he plays more minutes than like a Shattenkirk. And like Lowry's been solid. And Wotherspoon kind of fills that need of kind of more of a secondary shutdown guy. I keep the D as is. I keep the D as is going to the next game. I know the commenters might disagree, but I keep it the same. I do.
I mean, I don't know. I'm a big left-right. I think putting someone out of position in a playoff series is a difficult thing to do. So I'd sit there and think real hard about putting Shattenkirk back in.
No, and I don't hate that. I just think it comes down to like, look at how much he played in game 4, and you're going back to Toronto. Like, you don't have the matchups. That's the thing with that, right? Like, because if he plays, then guys like Carlo, McAvoy, Lindholm, they're going to play way more minutes. But Shattenkirk's solid on the power play, and he's a puck mover. Like, that's great. But I just rather have the 6 they have out there tonight. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 2-1 game. Limited high danger opportunities. Yeah, I have no problem if they go back to the same lineup tonight. Obviously, it is wholly dependent on Carlo's ability to play on Thursday. So I don't know. That's a tough one.
It is.
I don't have any answer for you. If you're asking me to make the decision, I'm going back to the lineup that's won 2 games in Toronto. I'm going back to Shattenkirk. I'm going back to a left-right matchup. I'm going back to that easier breakout pass, right? Like if you get in trouble, you just put it on someone's forehand.
That's fair.
That's the way I would lean. I also thought that Grizzlies was good tonight. I did.
Yeah. So you have that on D. So it feels like up front you switch out. I do wonder though if they consider like a Jakob Lauko, or even on D like Derek Forbert was in the line rushes today. Someone just said, Evan and Carl, I hope you get everything you want out of life, but just not in this series. That's hilarious. But do they think about putting Lauko back in as sort of an energizer bunny for a forecheck, right? On defense, do they look at a guy like Forbert? I mean, you have a lot of left shots who can go. That's the thing, but I wouldn't. I've said this to you today. Like, I would not thrust him back into this series. I don't think that's you don't need another big defenseman who has a tough time moving the puck. Like, you want mobile skaters who can skate with the Leafs. I think that's just me.
No, you
so
have to.
I wouldn't go with Forbert. I wouldn't put Forbert.
I don't think you could put Forbert in right slower back from an injury. That is a hard spot to put him in. I think you look at, I think we've talked about it before in the series and maybe haven't touched on tonight, the inability to break the puck out, the inability for Lindholm to break the puck out has been an issue. And if he's having a difficult time to break out pucks, it's going to be harder for like whoever you insert back into that lineup. Right, like Shattenkirk and Forbert aren't the fastest, so pressure is on them a little bit quicker. Right, like Lindholm's breakout the whole series has been off the glass, and that led to a goal in one of the games and almost cost him in the third period again tonight.
Well, this has been an ongoing theme with him where he does have trouble with forechecks. And it was the case last year against Florida. It's been the case this year in this series. And there are times when he's good and he takes it out himself. When he's making that first pass, I don't know. Do you notice anything? Like, is it the pressure? Is it he's not identifying the open man? Like, what are you seeing on that?
This is me. He doesn't do enough shoulder check. If you watch him, like on whatever, let's say 75% of his retrievals, right, he doesn't scan enough. And like clearly it's a skill set that he has. He plays at the highest level, and he's been a great player in the National Hockey League for an extended period of time, right? Like that's why he has the salary he does. But in this series, and I don't know if it's predetermined for him that I'm going to get the puck and I'm going to go up the glass, I just see on his retrievals someone that's not scanning, not looking for open men, and the decision's been made early in his head that he's going to chip it up off the glass. So I don't know if that's anything you can change in this. It was just something I was focused on tonight because he's too good a player.
Yeah,
he is someone that can distribute the puck. He's someone that when they first started with the Bruins, everything was under pressure, making slip plays all over the place. You just haven't seen that, and that's what Boston's going to need. They need to have easy zone exits, and they just haven't been getting it. So,
no, they haven't. Is there anything we haven't touched on? I feel like we've hit on everything. We said Swayman should start Game 6. No lineup changes to the forwards except for Beecher and for Brazeau. You'd rather Shattenkirk back in. I would rather keep it. And
I like Grizzly. My thing with Shattenkirk is purely superstitious. You've won 2 games up there. I like Grizzly's game tonight. He wasn't the problem. He really wasn't.
No, he was not. He was not. So do you like? I know I asked you this. I think I asked you this at like the 7-minute mark. So there's new people here. There's more people here. We can kind of end on this. Like, I'm not worried. I'm not. I like the Bruins played well enough on the road that I think that's encouraging for the Bruins. I think where you worry is like historically speaking, when the Bruins have a tough time closing closing the Leafs out into Game 6. So I ask you, like, are you worried right now?
I don't think I'm as worried as I was last year. I think you saw the physicality of Florida present a problem for Boston. I just think
this comment, Ronald Reagan says, if it wasn't the Leafs, you'd be terrified. And I gotta be honest, I think Ronald is correct. I completely agree. I agree.
No, here's where I don't worry.
This would be a very different series, by the way.
Here's the thing. Toronto's season was on the line, and they didn't play particularly great. They played better than Boston, no doubt about that. But I thought you were going to get this buzzsaw for a 60-minute stretch, and you didn't see that. They did change their forecheck, so kudos to them. Like, they made that adjustment, but this wasn't complete and utter domination. Boston was still in this game, and I think we all admit, they played poorly.
Yeah.
And I expect that both teams are going to play better on Game 6. I expect the Game 6 to look like it did in the third period in overtime. I think Boston is the better team. So they should win. But here's the thing. You get to Game 7, and then I'm worried.
Yes.
You go back now. Game 7s haven't exactly gone right since 2011. They haven't gone the way Boston would like them to go.
Yeah, only against the Leafs. That's really been it. That's really where it goes down to, right? Like against the Leafs, the Game 7s have worked.
It says that we didn't respond to Kevin Walker, who said, "What was the point in making the changes to the lineup when you have a 3?" Yeah, there wasn't any. I know that Montgomery said in his presser he doesn't have any regrets about the changes. I don't just what was the need to go to him tonight, Evan? That would be my last question to you. What was the need?
I don't know. I mean, did they want to go more physical? I know that, like Montgomery mentioned earlier today at pregame skate, hey, we're going to go with, if we feel there's a matchup we can exploit, we're going to go with the best players. They used Grzelcyk more than they did Shattenkirk, right?
Yep.
So that I think they won that matchup, or that won that switch. But you need a face-off guy out there. And that fourth line didn't have enough speed, and you're juggling the bottom six, and that's the perplexing one. Because I loved Brazeau in the regular season, because during the regular season it was like, that guy is going to be a force in the playoffs, and I still am curious what you can get from him, but Beecher's valuable. You know what's interesting, Carl? The beginning of the game, the Bruins PR department sent out line charts, and they took out Heinen. Heinen was not in the pregame line charts. It was Beecher was in instead. So Beecher on the fourth and Brazeau up on the third. And I wonder if they look at that change of taking out Heinen to put Beecher back in. If they want that physicality of Brazeau, if they want to see what he has, I do wonder if they take out a guy like Danton Heinen, who I've liked on the forecheck. I've liked Danton Heinen on the forecheck. He's done a pretty good job.
They can't do that. And here's why, too. I think more flexibility with Danton Heinen, and he's a veteran that's been around and done it before at a high level. You can't just hope that Brazeau, who's coming back from injury, is going to be good in the playoffs. Again, if he's gonna hop in, he comes back in the next series. It didn't need to be tonight. It just didn't need to be tonight. It didn't need to be tonight. It didn't. Can I say, I know you're a CLNS. You kept repeating that in your little segment there. I'm gonna keep repeating it. It did not need to be tonight. You didn't need to make the changes tonight. You didn't. Evan, you didn't need to make the changes tonight.
Did we? Wait, did they have to make the changes tonight? I missed that.
They didn't have to make the changes tonight. They just didn't need to do it.
I got it. I think I got it. They did. Yeah. It's like Bart Simpson on the chalkboard. Just they didn't have to make the changes tonight. They didn't have to make changes tonight. I agree. They didn't have to make the changes tonight.
They didn't.
They didn't. That's why you win 2 games in a row. You make those changes when you're down 3-1. You don't make them when you're up. And you don't make them after you won 2 straight games. And that's the big thing.
Yeah, and I see the comment, right? It doesn't. line changes don't lose you the game, but it changes the mood in the locker room a little bit, right? Like, and so when you played a little passive tonight and you have new guys get inserted in, like for Grizzly, it's like, all right, I can't make mistakes. Don't make mistakes. For Brazeau, it's I got to prove I can stay in the I got to prove I can stay in the lineup. So there's a dynamic shift that happens in that locker room, and things may change. Brazeau and Grizzly might be a little bit quiet. You never know what those things bring to the table. So I just, again, Evan, you didn't need to make them tonight. Now, if you went out and you got smoked with Shattenkirk and Beecher in the lineup, then you say to yourself, all right, like, hey, you played yourself out, you lost, let's go. But you didn't need to make the changes.
You didn't. I completely agree.
Yeah.
So we're didn't need to make the changes, as you've said.
Didn't need to make the changes.
I think we've said that like 20 times in the last minute. But I think going forward, I don't think the outlook is as bleak as a lot of people's are. But in my heart of hearts, Carl, I just have a weird feeling this is going 7. I just do. I know. When I have Bruins in 6, I'm not like I still hold the Bruins in 6, but there's a part of me that's like, 2013, 2018, I could see this going 7. I could. So, and I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's a very real possibility. I stick with Bruins in 6, but like this, that like the angel and the devil. The angel's like, stick with Bruins in 6, but the devil's like, Bruins, it's gonna be 7 games. So I don't know. What do you feel? What's your feel? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm sticking. I gotta go Bruins in 6 because if it gets a game 7, you get me on after. If we're on post game on Thursday and we're going, I speak like If the Bruins go to game 7 with Toronto, I'm hiding. I'm hiding on that post game. I will have a hat on. I will not make any comments. It'll just be.
Remember the one we did last year, and the
Game
Leafs
6.
fans game 7 against the Panthers.
Yeah.
And at the end, and the comments were all Leafs fans trolling the Bruins. So if that happens again, I guess we've done good to be in the good graces of Leafs fans.
I think the Toronto fans on our comment section have been great.
Been terrific.
It's been fun.
I'm a fan of them. So we'll see. Again, we're presented by Prize Picks. Use that promo code CLNS to get up to $100 matched on your first deposit, and go to Game Time. Use that promo code CLNS. Get $20 off your first pair of tickets bought. Prize Picks Game Time. Carl, that's it. That's game 5. I really had high hopes for overtime. I did. I had high hopes. I was like, they're gonna win it here. Jack Edwards' final call as the announcer is gonna be a Bruins win over the Leafs in overtime. I really believed it. I was telling people, I was like, I even tweeted, I thought Van Riemsdyk was gonna score the OT winner, but not quite there. So that's game 5. Bruins lose 2-1 in OT. We will see you on Thursday night after game 6.